right? So thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'm going to put a resource link in the chat, so you can definitely hold on to that. I am going to kind of introduce what we're going to be doing today. And Wendy did such an amazing job introducing me. I really don't have much more to say, but I will give you a little bit more about my background in education, just because I know that, we hear that C word consultant and it's like, but have you ever taught? And I have. So I like to make sure that people know that I am coming from the perspective of an educator. So let's get started. Now, the chat is going to be our best friend today. So you'll see me look to the side a whole bunch. That's because this is where all of your wonderful faces are and is where my chat is. So definitely, throw questions in the chat. I'm not sure, if you're used to like hopping on the mic. If you are, I'm fine with you hopping on the mic and asking a question. I always say, don't wait for me to breathe, because if you wait for me to breathe, it's not going to happen, because I'll just keep going. So just be like, Desiree, and I'll stop and I'll listen to your question. So just let me know. This is supposed to be a work session, so I do expect that you're clicking along with me. The reason I like doing those kind of sessions is because if you're clicking, then you're going to have those questions while I'm here, right? Versus waiting until later. Then you're like, what did she say? So if you can click with me, then you'll have those questions that pop up in your brain, and I may be able to answer them, because of course I'm not an expert at anything. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Bloop, bloop. Padlet. All right, so this is Padlet 101. So I teach two different Padlet courses. One is Padlet 101 and one is templates in Padlet. So Padlet 101 is really exactly what it sounds like. It is the Padlet basics. Like, what are the things that I can do with Padlet? And I like to do this one, especially if I'm ever going to come back and do templates, because sometimes I'll go into templates and people are like, but how do you add? But how do you? I'm like, oh, you got to come to Padlet 101 so you can get that information. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Just going through like everything you could possibly do with Padlet. So as Wendy very graciously said, I am Dr. Desiree Alexander. I'm not going to go through what I do now because she's done that, but in my past, I've been a 6th grade and 8th grade English teacher, a high school English teacher, a middle school librarian, a high school librarian, and a district level instructional technology supervisor. And that has been my 20 years in education. And now I'm doing this full time. So that is me. These are all of the different ways that you can contact me. So honestly, as long as you can get to my website, which is educatoralexander.com, as long as you can get there, you can get. So if you can get to educatoralexander.com, my email is on there, my phone number is on there, all my social media handles, newsletter, all that stuff is on the website. I will say, email is always going to be better than phone call, because I'm usually traveling and doing things like that. So even like during breaks and stuff, I'm checking my email. So you'll probably get a quicker response through email. All right, so this is the resource that I put in the chat. And if you weren't here when I did that, I'm going to throw it in the chat again. You don't have to be on this resource at all. You just need to be in your Padlet. If you don't have a Padlet account, we can create one right now. It's very, very easy. And then you can play with us, because we're going to play with Padlet. Okay, so let's get started. Go ahead and throw any questions in the chat right now. You never have to wait for me to ask for questions. And I'm just going to give some space. I'm horrible with teacher wait time. I'll tell you that. I'm going to try to do okay this time. But do I have any questions on the mic? I'm also giving you time to create your Padlet if you can't tell. Do I have any questions on the mic? Let me check the chat. Okie dokie. So we are going to go to Padlet.com and create your account or log into your account. Everything I'm going to be showing you today is free. So I don't like showing like paid stuff, because we want to do as much as we can for free. The good thing about Padlet is everything is free. The only thing is you can only create 3 Padlets at a time. So it's not like if you click on a button, they're going to say, this is paid. That's the good thing about Padlet. Everything is free. You just can only create 3 at a time. So notice I'm saying at a time. I'm going to show you ways that you can archive Padlets without deleting them. So you can always archive them and then bring them back when you need them. So, I love a good free tool when they give us those kind of options, right? Where you don't have to like delete and get rid of all of your work. So hopefully you are in your account. You created your account. If I'm not mistaken, you can log in with Google, make it super easy. So this is how your Padlet is going to look when you first get on here. So let me do one thing. There we go. So this is how your Padlet is going to look. Now you may have multiple Padlets, especially if you or your school district or your state pays for it, then you may have, a whole bunch of Padlets, or you may see 3 right here and it won't let you create another one. But I'm going to show you pretty early on how you can archive so you can create. So happy Saturday, says Padlet. Hi, Desiree. Hi, Padlet. And now we're going to look at the buttons right here to see how do we use our dashboard. So that's what this is called. This is our dashboard. Notice that you can, especially if you have a whole bunch of Padlets, you can come here and filter it either by name or by last modified. That's not that important if you can only have 3, but it is important if you have a whole bunch. Okay, so we're going to start right here with this side panel of buttons. And again, I'm expecting that you're clicking while I'm clicking. So, and you don't have to, of course, but I'm expecting that that's what you're doing. So notice we have recents. So recents is really no big magic to it. Recents are just the recent Padlets that you clicked on. And it tells you, see, I was kind of playing around this morning. It tells you when you've clicked on it. So if you're like, man, I clicked on a Padlet 3 days ago that I really loved, but I forgot to save it. I forgot to put it as a bookmark, which I'll tell you how to do. You can always come to recents because I just clicked on this one just to see it and it's here in my recents. So really awesome tool that you can use. And then you have bookmarked. So if you do find a bunch of Padlets that you want to use, you can come here and bookmark them. So you can bookmark them and they'll show up here. Notice it'll just be under, favorites. You can also build your own folders. So I have one just called favorites. I have one called sample. And then if I click new folder, I can go ahead and give my folder a name. And now I have a new folder to put it in. Now, if you are going to want to organize your bookmarks into favorites, I do suggest coming here first and building your folders. It's just going to make things a little bit easier. So when you click on the bookmark button, you can put it in a folder that already exists. Not a big deal, but that's just what I suggest for organization. And of course, you can organize this by class period. You can organize this by subject that you teach, because I know a lot of us have multiple preps, things like that. It can even be organized by holidays, by like, what are those reasons that you would use Padlet? Then you have your name right here. Now, you may not have your picture, but you have your name right now. So you can go ahead and click that. And this just shows you your dashboard. So it's the same thing as home. It's a home button. Okay, so when you do first, like I'm gonna refresh this page, when you first come to your Padlet dashboard, this is where you are. You're right here where your name is. So if you're thinking about like Google Drive, this is where my drive is. So this is your main dashboard. Then you have shared. Has anyone shared their Padlet with you? If they have, it will show up here. Okay. Lady J actually works for Padlet, and I was like, hey, can you share one with me so I can have something shared with me? So she shared, I don't even think this is like a full Padlet, but she shared something with me just so I can have it in shared. So if anyone shares a Padlet with you, this is where you're going to find it. Then you have the handy dandy gallery. Do not sleep on gallery. Gallery is where you can come and find pre-made Padlets. Now they can be, because I'm going to show you when you create your Padlet, you can say that it's for the public. So if you would say that it's for the public to use, this is where you're going to come and find it. Now you may scroll down and go, well, that's not a lot of Padlets. But remember, you can come here and use the filter, and you can also search for whatever kind of subject you're looking for. So when you do come and you find a Padlet, we're going to talk about how you can follow the Padlet, which is something that's brand new. How you can follow the Padlet, and then how you can recreate the Padlet. So somebody says like, hey, this is a Padlet for a book review, and you're like, oh my goodness, I love this. I'm going to use this with my kiddos. You don't have to recreate it yourself if they gave you permission. So I'm going to show you how you can lock down your Padlets and how you can make it where other people can recreate it for themselves. Okay, so for Padlet, you never have to start from scratch. And the thing that I really love about Padlet is, you know how we have some tech tools that you can use for like one thing? Well, Padlet is for you giving out information, but also you gathering information. So it's kind of that one-stop shop for all of it. And that's one of the things we truly love about Padlet. And then we have our little handy dandy plus sign, and that is for you to create a team. So for free, you can create one team, unless it's updated. You can create one team for free. So that's where you're going to say, this is my team, and these are the people on my team, and we can all do Padlets together. You know, free account, you can only do one. It kind of is a better tool when you have the paid account. You could do multiple and have multiple people on your team, if that makes sense. And then down here, you have notifications. So if something is new in Padlet, this is how you can tell. Okay, so it tells you like what's new, when did it come out, all that good stuff. Padlet, I'm not gonna say, like they announce stuff like on their Twitter, but it's not like some other tech companies where like, you know, immediately when something awesome came out. So you do want to click this every now and then. Usually if it's a notification, you'll have a little bubble on it, but you do want to click this and see like, hey, what is new? Especially if you're using Padlet a lot, it may be something that you've been waiting for the whole time. So you do want to click, like, don't again sleep on this little notifications button. And then you have your settings. So under the three dots, you can come to your settings. You can connect it to your drive. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the drive in a second. I don't really get it, but I'll tell you about it. But this is where you can come to your settings and the help and feedback. So for your settings, one setting that just came out, and I suggest everybody go and click on this, beta. So if you turn this on by just clicking it, this is where you can test beta features. So that means when something new is coming out and they want to just want somebody to test it, they may ask you for feedback. This is how you can test it. So you can get the new and greatest before, you know, everybody else does, because you knew to go and click this button. So definitely turn this on. This is brand new for Padlet, so turn it on. But this is also where you can come and change your picture. So if you do want your picture to be there, notice you have the little pencil there. You can just upload your own picture, or use some of the stuff they already have here. I can't wait to get into some of those things. You can change your name, and all that good stuff is here. Also, password, notifications, like do you want to get emails, things like that. Your billing information if you do want to upgrade. So if you click on billing, it'll show you exactly how much it is to upgrade and what you get for free. So like I said, you get 3 Padlets and you get 20 megabytes per upload. But we're gonna talk about a trick to doing that. So if you want to upload your direction sheets that's in Word, I mean, it shouldn't be over 20 megabytes, but let's say it is, right? Or you want to upload a picture. Well, instead of uploading the actual file, upload the link. So go throw that file into Microsoft Teams or Google Drive, get the link and put the link in there. And then you're never going to have to worry about that upload limit. So always a way around it, which I, of course, love. So 3 Padlets, 20 megabyte upload, and that's per upload, not for like your whole Padlet. Referrals. You can get more space in Padlet. So if you click on referrals, you will have a link right here that you can give to people. Notice you can just copy it and then go paste it somewhere. We can give this link to people, and when they sign up for their free account, for every 3 people, you're going to get another Padlet that you can keep in your storage. So why not? Especially if you're the first person going back to your school, using Padlet a whole bunch. It doesn't cost them anything. It doesn't cost you anything. Give out your code. It's free. It's just sitting there. And then you can have 5 Padlets or 6 Padlets without paying for it. And notice it tells you like how many people actually signed up with it, all that good stuff. But it's all here. This is also where you can come to delete your account if you would like to delete it. So that's it for the side panel. Let me see if we have any questions in the chat. I don't see any. Any questions on the mic? Okie dokie. So let's talk about this little section and then each of the Padlets, and then we're going to dig deep into Padlets. So notice you have your search Padlets here, where you can come here and just search using a keyword. You have join a Padlet. So that's what your students are going to use a lot of times. If you have a Padlet that you want them to join and all work on together, you would go to join a Padlet and put the URL of the Padlet here. But I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways that you can share your Padlets. So don't worry about that. And then make a Padlet, and then what kind do you want to make? So we're going to go through that in a second. This is when we're about to get started, deep diving into Padlet. But I just want to show you, when you're here, notice you have 3 little dots on each Padlet. So if you click on the 3 dots, this is where you can add the bookmark. Okay, so when you click add bookmark, notice I have my folders already here. It just makes it a little bit easier. You can add a new folder, but I like just having all my stuff already done. So you can come here and go ahead and add that to a folder. You also have archive Padlet. So notice right here, we have all and we have archive. So you can archive a Padlet. So you see how I have one archive where it's not in my count, right? Because remember, I don't know if you remember when I went to settings, it said I had 2 Padlets already done. So if I wanted to take this out of archive, I can just unarchive it. So what that means is it kind of opens up your world where you can have 10 million Padlets, just archiving them all and only keeping the 3 that you need current. Okay, so that is a big benefit for the free account, where you don't have to delete stuff and you can always get back to it. So if I'm doing a, Hamlet and fractions, and I have a parent portal, I can make those 3 current. And then when I'm done with fractions, go ahead and archive it. I can use it again next year. So you can always come and unarchive your Padlets. And of course, you can come delete them too. But if you notice, when I'm here, you can also delete it from here. If you're like, I don't want to archive it, I just want to just get rid of it, I don't want it anymore. You can also delete it from here, and you can remove it from recent. So remember, recent are all those things that you recently touched. Well, if you're like, well, I don't want this to show in recents, you can remove it from recents. And you have copy link. So what is the link to this Padlet? Again, we're going to talk about your different sharing options where that copy link is going to make way more sense. Any questions before we start digging really deep into our Padlet? Are y'all excited? I feel like my blood is I'm ready. All right, let's go. See, I'm horrible with teacher wait time. Just interrupt me, y'all. Make a Padlet. Okay. So if I click on make a Padlet, notice you have your format to choose from, but you can always change it later. So that's one of the awesome things, because sometimes you will start a Padlet and you're like, this is not looking like I want it to look. And you want to go and change the format. Back in the day, you couldn't. Like back in the day, you better recreate it. That's all you could do. But now you can change the format and it will kind of make it look good for you. Jamie says, how is this different from Wakelet? Wakelet, first and foremost, Padlet was out like way before Wakelet. So how is it different from Wakelet? I feel like Wakelet has more of a I keep wanting to say podcast, but that's not what I wanted to say. the word is escaping me. It has more of a, not social media either, vibe, like a blog vibe. That's how I was trying to go. Whew, okay. Wakelet has more to, in my opinion, and I do teach Wakelet as well. I'm part of the Wakelet Fever. I love, and the people with the company are so awesome. Padlet too, Wakelet too. But there's more of a blog vibe, of a, like a, almost looking like a website vibe, where Padlet isn't. So Padlet is more of a social media vibe. Padlet is more of a, well, let me show you the different formats, and it may, what I'm saying may make more sense to you. Well, Wakelet has this kind of flow, and you could almost make it look like a website. That's kind of not Padlet. So let me show you the formats, and it may make a little bit more sense. And that's just my humble opinion. So notice we have, you probably
Desiree, you
only
got a
see
question in
formats.
the chat from Tony there.
Oh, okay, let's see. Will students need to create an account, or will the link automatically allow them to see the pad? Tony, you'll see that in a second. We're going to talk about sharing settings. It's a yes and a no to your question. So yes, they can create an account, but they don't have to for certain things. So yeah, when we talk about sharing settings, I'm gonna get to you. I love these questions. Keep them coming. All right. So you may only see formats, or you may not see anything right here. Because I'm part of the beta, I'm seeing something that's not released yet, and I'll explain to you what it is. So when we go to simple formats, notice when you hover over, it kind of shows you what each format looks like. So I'm just going to talk over these for a second, and then we're going to go in and build one. So canvas is what you're going to use. It's like a blank canvas, right? And it's what you're going to use when you want to show connections. So notice I have like a box right here, a box right here, a box right here, and you can draw the lines to it. So anytime you want to show connections to certain ideas, you're going to use more of a canvas. Timeline is exactly what it sounds like. It's a timeline. So anytime you want to create that timeline that goes horizontally, that's what you're going to do. Grid is kind of the messiest Padlet. I don't want to say messy because it's not, because it's part of a grid, but notice that like some of your boxes can be short. Question? Okay, some of them can be short, some of them can be long, but notice they all start at the same place. So that's what makes it a grid. They're all going to start at the same line, where wall is going to look more like bricks. I know some people are like, I really don't care about that, but it makes a difference. Okay, especially for type A people, it's gonna make a difference. So wall looks like brick, so it's not gonna have any space between them. It's gonna be bricked like a brick wall, where grid is all gonna start at the same level. Then you have stream. Stream is like your social media. So just like on Facebook and Twitter, where you just kind of scroll up and down and you kind of see what's going on. So that's going to be your stream. So if you want to make something that looks like, you know, a TikTok or something like that, is going to scroll, that will be your stream. And you can't put videos in here. So you can't actually create it to look like a TikTok, kind of. And then you have map, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a map. You put pinpoints on it and you can put information. So these are the different types of Padlets. And when we talk about, you know, in my templates class, we go through each of these and talk about them connected with certain content areas, right? So, but these are your different ones. And then if you turn on beta, you're going to see advanced formats. So what they did with that advanced is that they gave you sections for each one. Now, wall and wall with sections, you see the difference in, like, I can't really move my mouse up there because it's gonna, but you see how this is just a wall, but with sections, you can actually label each section. We absolutely love that they put sections on each of the formats. And again, this is one of those things that people are like, but if you've been using Padlet for a while, and when you start using Padlet, you're going to see the benefit in actually being able to organize your Padlet with a section. So believe me, this that's coming out, people have been asking for it and wanting it for a long time. So we are very happy about that. So those are your different formats of Padlets. The one that I put in the chat for your resources is this. So notice it does have the sections on it, and you can, add per section. So you have all of these wonderful resources here that you can use later. So what we're going to do together is we're going to make a Padlet. Remember, you can delete it, so don't worry about it being part of your 3. Or if you need to archive one to make one, I suggest doing that just so you don't mess up your Padlet that you already have. Okay. So we're going to make a Padlet, and you can choose what, format you would like to choose. I am going to choose a, I don't know. I think I'm going to choose a wall, I guess. I'll choose a wall. So if you want to work with me, I'll choose a wall. There we go. So we have a brand new Padlet, and we're going to talk about all of the different things we can do in our Padlet. Okay. And good luck, Debbie. Okay, just giving you a second to create your Padlet, because then we're about to just dive deep head first into everything. So I have my delightful Padlet. Of course, I did not name it that. Padlet named it that for me. So I can come here and change the title to whatever I want my title to be. So let's say I'm going to use this as a parent resource. So I'm going to call it Parent Resource Center. Notice whatever I call it, the title is going to be right here. And then I can go to description, and whatever I write here, people are going to see. So what do you want to tell them about this Padlet? So I can say, click on the resources below to learn all about our school and our classroom. You can just keep it going. Like, what do you want to tell them about this Padlet? This is where you're going to put the directions. This is where you're going to put what to do, why does this Padlet exist, all of that kind of stuff is right in here. You cannot put space. So if I come here, I can't like click enter and go to the next line. Like, it's not, everything's going to be like in a paragraph. So just keep that in mind. And then, do you want an icon up here? You can say yes or no. If you click none, you can, go ahead and get an icon that already exists. You can do a custom one by like uploading your school mascot or something like that. We're going to talk about all these other little buttons in a second, but you can come here and upload your own. I'm just going to do a superhero lady because, why not? And then notice you have emojis, you have custom that just leads you to the bottom. And then I'm going to hit save. So I have my little superhero lady, Parent Resource Center. Click on the resources below. It says my name, and it says the last time I updated it was 1 minute ago. We're going to scroll down and let's click on wallpaper. And you notice I'm kind of going a little slow to give you time to kind of click on stuff. So I'm expecting that you're clicking and kind of looking at the options with me. So if you're like, I love this wallpaper, it's purple and pink, like what more do you want? Then just leave it alone. But if you want to change it, you're going to click on it. And there's multiple different ones that you can choose from. Now notice you have your buttons here at the top, but you can literally just scroll down and get through all of the buttons. So, it's not that big of a deal. And then you always have custom. You can always upload your own. Now, this is where I want you to be a little bit careful, because I've had people put like really awesome and interesting backgrounds, but you don't want your background to take away from your content. Okay, so be very careful about having these like really lustrous backgrounds, and then I can't read the words on the screen that well, or it's just a distraction. So be very, very careful about that. I like more of my like solid colors, that kind of thing, just because it doesn't take away from the background. From the content. Corkboard has been around since Padlet has been around. So I'm one of those, I do look for my corkboard, but it is really old school. But I'm just used to the cork board, so I look for it a lot. But yeah, like I think maybe that used to be the only wallpaper maybe for Padlet. But there you go. So it's a lot of different ones that you can get. Just be very careful about making it overtake your content. And when you're ready, just go ahead and hit save. Just giving you a second to choose your Padlet. Yay. And then you have your color scheme. So you can have a dark color scheme or a light color scheme. You're going to see that a little bit more when you start posting stuff. Now, if you're like, well, I don't know which one to choose right now, then just leave it alone and come back to it later. Same thing with your font. You can leave it alone and then come back to it later. You can kind of see the font a little bit more right here with your title. So you can change it. But if you're like, I don't know, then just leave it alone. You can come back to it later. All of this you can come back to later. And then layouts, do you want to group posts by section? Notice what happened. When I say, yes, I want to group it by section, notice I get my little section titles here. If I leave that off, then there's no section titles. I'm going to say yes, because again, I am type A. I like my sections. So I'm going to say yes to that. All right. We have some decisions. You're like, Desiree, we already started making decisions. But you have some more serious decisions, especially if you're using this with students. Okay, so posting. So these are your posting settings. What do you want your students or your parents or whoever you're going to use this with to be able to do? All right. Do you want to display the author name with the timestamp above each post? If you want to do this where people can comment anonymously, then you want to turn this off. If you want to do it to where their name has to be there, then you can turn it on. Now, if you turn this on, your students have to have a Padlet account. I'm going to say that again. If you turn it on, then your because how does it know the name, right? So if you turn it on, your students have to have a Padlet account and they have to be logged in to their Padlet account in order to post to your Padlet. Hopefully that makes sense, because how would Padlet know their name unless they're logged into their account? Okay, and that's why I was like, I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna come back to all your questions if I haven't answered them. And then you have commenting. Do you want to allow viewers to comment? So this is just, do you want them to actually post? So if I say, hey kiddos, I want you to take a picture of your homework and I want you to post it on here. We want to see how everybody's solving this math problem. We want to see what everybody thinks about this historical event. How did you think that this actually started? So if you're going to do something like that, that's a post. But you can also say, well, can they comment on each other's post? You can say yes, or you can say no. Turn it on, turn it off. Good thing is you can turn it on and off as you want to. So you can say, hey, during this 10 minutes, we're going to go ahead and comment on each other's, and then I'm going to turn it off. I don't want you commenting at home, but I want you commenting during this time during class, almost like an online discussion. Do you want to add reactions? This makes it, in my opinion, a little bit more like social media. Unless you use like the upvote, you may want to actually vote on stuff as well. So notice it's none right now, but I can come here and I can choose what type of reactions I want to give them. So I can give them like a like, I can give them an upvote. So an upvote may be, hey, which book do we want to read next? I have 5 books on the Padlet. I want you to go on there and upvote the book that you want, downvote the book that you don't want. And then everybody can see in the class, like, oh, To Kill a Mockingbird is getting upvoted. Speak is getting down. They're both awesome books, but Speak is getting down. Okay, so you can kind of see what's going on. So you can do votes like this. You can give 5 stars, and you can give numeric grades. So then what is the highest, that you want the numeric grade to be? So if you're like, I don't want any of this on it, then click none. But if you want any of this, it's right here for you. And I'll just do like, so you can see it. Where should the new post appear? So do you want new at the top or new at the bottom? Again, up to you. So this is where you're going to be making these decisions for your Padlet. I'm gonna stop right here. Let's see, love this feature. Yay! Okay, so next, content. Now, do you wanna moderate your Padlet? So do you wanna have to approve the post before everyone else can see them? That is up to you as a teacher. You know what your kiddos can handle is what I usually tell my teachers. First period, may be able to handle stuff that third period can't. Let's be real, right? So you're going to have to decide, well, who, do I have to approve them or can they just show on the Padlet? Now, if you said that they have to, that the author is going to show, at least if they do put something inappropriate, you know who did it. Now, if you're going to make it anonymous, then you may want to require approval. I don't know. Okay, but again, that's up to you. These are all the decisions that you're going to make. Do you want to filter profanity? So what it will do is if they put a bad word, it's going to replace it with an emoji. So, I mean, you'll know what they're trying to say, but it's still going to replace those bad words with emojis. At least, before you go delete it, right? Like at least they'll catch it a little bit before you go delete it. And then this is what we talked about a little bit about remakes. Do you want someone else to be able to use your Padlet? Do you want them to be able to remake your Padlet and use it for their own? So if you're going to create a Padlet and your whole 6th grade team is like, yes, we love it, and you want them to be able to remake it, you can say, yes, they can remake the Padlet. And again, one of the things I like about Padlet is none of this is set in stone. Like none of this is like, no, you can never change it again. No, you can always come back here and change it. Okay, nothing is set in stone. New feature alert, new feature alert. This is new. So we used to like create our Padlets and then we would send that long, nasty link to people and say, don't worry about it, just click on it. Or we would make it a short link, right? Now you can do it right here in Padlet. So notice it says URL and I can change this whole back part. Now it's still going to be padlet.com/educatoralexander/ right? Because that's my domain. But you can change this whole back part to make it make sense. So I can say parent resources. And that can be, once I click save, that can be my link. Padlet.com/educatoralexander/ resources. Now, if you are part of like a school domain, which is called a backpack account. So if your school creates an account and they give like each of you an account, that's called a backpack plan because they're paying for your account and you're kind of like in their backpack. Then it's going to say, Kentucky School District /. So that means whatever you put at the back, no one else is going to check if anyone else has already taken it. So that's when you're going to have to get a little bit more creative with, like, I'm sure someone would have already taken parent resources. So you may have to put parent resources with your name behind it or parent resource with your school acronym or something like that. So just keep that in mind. It won't be as easy as this. The more people you have in your backpack, but I'm the only one on this account. So, but there you go. I mean, you can go ahead and copy it and go ahead and send it to people and go, hey, this is my Padlet. I love it. There you go. Any questions so far about these settings?
I do,
Yes.
please. On the URL, I was trying to put like a space. It has to be all one word. Is that correct?
Yeah, because it's a regular website link, so it's no spaces. Now you can use an underscore, but
Okay,
yeah, just like a regular website, you never have a space in a URL. Yeah, but you can put, like, if I want to put parent _ resources, I can do that. Good question. I'm just reading everything in the chat. Any other questions so far? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and click this X. I'm going to get out of the settings. And notice this is my Padlet so far. So we want to look at the other things we can do to set up our Padlet. I think we want to start adding to our Padlet, right? And even if you're like, well, I don't want to add to the Padlet, I want my students to add to the Padlet. Well, you still want to know what your students can do, right? Because they're going to have questions for you and things like that. You want to be able to answer it. So let's get started. So you see my side panel here. Then I have my big plus sign. If you've used Google Classroom way back in the day, it's like the plus sign that we used to have for that. But we have all of our different resources up here as well. So we want to go ahead and go through our side panel first. So notice I have my little picture up here, and that just brings me pretty much back to my dashboard. So notice it shows me how many Padlets I've used. I can get back to my profile and all that kind of stuff, back to my settings. So this is kind of that same stuff that we did in the dashboard. With stats, you do have to email Padlet for your stats. I know it's not, but they're getting rid of it. Oh, it actually says that now. They read the screen, Desiree. They are getting rid of it just because no one really used it. So if you did need stats of like how many people have looked at my Padlet and all that, you can email them and they'll give it to you, they said. So then we have our little buttons right here. So we have our share button. Now this is when it gets important because this is where you can say, do you want your Padlet to be public? Do you want it to be private? Who do you want to share it with? What do you want them to do with it? All that kind of stuff. I use Padlet a lot with conferences. So I'll go to a conference and I'll say, hey, if you have a question, go ahead and throw it on the Padlet. We call it a back channel. We say, hey, go ahead and throw it on the Padlet. And hey, I'll check this Padlet for the rest of the week and see if you have any questions. Well, the first time I did that, I made it public. And guess what happened? Public people started acting publicly. And it wasn't good. So now I learned like, okay, I can't make it public because people will do what people do. So I had to give them a password. So if you came to my session, you got a password to go on Padlet and then you were able, so it kept it a little bit more secure. I didn't know that until I went to play with my sharing settings. So you'll know it because I'm about to show it to you now. So go ahead and click on share. And what did I click on? It was the little arrow that looks like this. So go ahead and click on that and let's just go through our settings. So notice we have invite members and we can add members to invite. So this is when you want your Padlet to only be shared with certain people. So I don't want to make it public at all. I just want to share it with certain people. So I can click add members and then go ahead and put those members, email addresses. None of these people, but sure. I don't know why my email didn't come up, but that's okay. So I don't know who this is, but sure, I'm going to invite them. So there you go, Happy. So when I say that I want to invite this person, notice I can choose what can they do. I'm not going to go through this right now. I'm going to show you this a little bit later in the sharing settings, but you can choose what do you want each individual person to be able to do. I can also come here and remove that person because I don't know who that person is. And I probably couldn't. Let's see if I can do this one. Okay, so I couldn't, but you saw how I typed in the email and it wouldn't go through. That's because that's my account. So it's like, Desiree, you're inviting yourself. So now I'm inviting my other account so I can click add. So I just want you to think that you couldn't just type in a random person's email and invite them. You can. I wrote my own email address and it wouldn't let it go through. So this is just a random email address that's not in the system and all that kind of stuff, but I can still invite them. I'm not going to click save. I'm just going to click cancel. Yes. All right. So that's how I can invite people and I can change what they can do even after they're invited. So if I have somebody kind of wrecking the Padlet and they don't know how to act, I can go and just change them to they can only view it, that kind of thing. And then you have your privacy. So what kind of privacy setting do you want your Padlet to be on? The awesome thing is when you click change privacy, it explains to you what each one is, which is very helpful for me. Even though I use Padlet all the time, sometimes I'm like, which one do I want? So private, it keeps it hidden from the public. Even if someone manages to get to it, they should not be able to access it. So even if they're able to get to it, they have the link for some reason, they still won't be able to see it. It's just going to say like, you don't have access to this. Password, this is the one I use a whole bunch. So if you click password, it's going to ask you for the password right down here. So that you can keep your Padlet hidden from the public. But if I do choose to share it, I have to give them the password. Okay, and notice you can just write your password down here. You choose your password, you give it out. Then you have secret. So you're keeping it hidden from the public. And if you choose to share it, they will be able to access it. So secret is not private. Private is I am the only one that I want to see this Padlet. Secret is it shouldn't be available to the public. They shouldn't be able to Google it or go to Padlet and search for it. But if I want to send the link to someone, then they will be able to get to it. Very similar to YouTube. So if you're a YouTuber and you put videos on YouTube, you have those different sets, very similar to that if you use YouTube. And then public. My Padlet is so awesome. I want to share it with the whole world. Go ahead. That's public. Put it on your profile. They'll be able to search for it. Like, make it public. The world needs to see this, right? Yes. So that's public. Now, even though you're choosing these, right? And notice how the bottom is changing as you choose it. So private, there's nothing at the bottom because you said you want to be the only person to see it. Password has, you can put your password here, and what can the visitor do? Oh, I don't know what I'm clicking. Wait, okay, there we go. Secret has logged in visitors only. So even though you're making it secret, remember secret means it's hidden from the public. But if I share the link with someone, I want them to be able to see it. But do you only want people that are logged into Padlet? So again, going back to his question, do my students have to be logged into Padlet? Not necessarily. So if you just want them to see something, like you're just giving them resources and you don't click this, then no, they don't have to have a Padlet account. They can still see the Padlet, they can still click on the resources, but they don't have to be logged in. So, but do you want it to be only people who have Padlet accounts? You can just click this on, or you can just say public, which public means there's nothing else to ask you except for what do you want visitors to be able to do. I'm going to stop right here before we go through the things that visitors are able to do. Any questions? I love how we can share using Google Classroom. I have all of my curriculum. Oh, yes, absolutely. Tony, take that link, put it on Google Classroom, you're done. Absolutely. Any questions? Okay, let's look at, oh, go ahead.
If you give the link on Google Classroom and the students click on it, they don't have to have any kind of password to open it up.
It depends on what privacy setting you choose.
Okay.
So if you choose public, no, it's public to everybody. If you choose secret, no, they don't have to have a password unless, and they don't even have to be logged into Padlet unless you click this button. Now, password, yes, and private, they won't be able to see it at all. Questions? Okay, so I have my link. I gave out my link. What do I want people to be able to do with my Padlet? So right now it says can read. So what can they do? They can look at it and see the awesomeness of what I have created and click on it, right? So they can read it. Now you have can write and can edit. So this is very, very, very important. So it's almost like Google Classroom, right? All these different things where you can click a button, but then you have to give them rights. So can read, again, I love that they explain everything on the screen. So can read means they can view posts, they can't add anything, but they can read it and they can click on it. Can write. So can write means they can view it and they can add post. So they can't edit what's already there. They can't approve posts. So if you put moderation on, they can't approve it, but they can post stuff. Okay, so they can't modify, they can't delete, they can't invite people. They don't have control over it. They can just post to it. Most of the time, y'all, that's what you're going to use. If I'm giving out resources, I'm going to say they can read it. If I want my students to interact with it, I'm going to say they can write. You're hardly ever going to give them editing rights. Okay, so these are the two you're mainly going to use. But then you have can edit, which means they can pretty much do what you can do, except editing. I'm sorry, it says deleting the Padlet, inviting other people. They can't do that. And when they say modify the Padlet, that doesn't mean add to it. That means like change the background. Like they won't be able to do like change the title. They won't be able to do that. But they can view and add and delete posts and approve other people's posts and edit people's posts. Like they can do all of that kind of stuff. So if somebody puts a bad word, they can go in there and edit it. Again, you're not going to use that often unless you have like a co-teacher or something like that. Usually you're going to keep with can write or can read. Even when we were up here at inviting members, notice we have can read, can write, can edit, and then you have can administer, which means they can do everything you can do. So that will be another thing that you can use for your co-teacher. That means they can delete the Padlet, they can do everything you can do. So again, that's the one that you want to be very careful, even with your co-teacher, you want to be very careful about giving somebody that much rights to your Padlet. So I just wanted to kind of point that one out and kind of warn you about that one. So those are the different visitor permissions that you can give. Do we have any questions?
You have a question from Miranda there.
Okay, and you do have to click save, y'all. So if we were to have my kids make their own Padlet, could I have them create their own Padlets and share them to me? Absolutely, and share them to me as a project. Absolutely, Miranda. They can have their own account. They get 3 too, like it's just a public account, so they can get 3 Padlets and then they can share it with you. You can even make a Padlet for them to turn it into. Where's my microphone so I can drop it, right? So you can make a Padlet and say, turn your links to the Padlet in this Padlet. What? My Inception, right? The Matrix. So there you go. So then everybody can see everybody else's Padlets and they can like click and y'all can, oh, look how awesome Johnny is. And you can have them comments on each other. Like, come on now. But yes, I went too far with your answer, but yes, you can do that. I get excited, y'all. This stuff makes me very excited. Let's see. You're welcome. I'm really loving Padlet. Yay. This is a game changer. Yes, Karen. All right. Let's continue. Unless you have, again, please interrupt me. I'm bad with teacher wait time. So we're still under the sharing settings. So we have I'm not going to go through all these, but you do have different ways to share. So notice you have like embedded in your website, getting a QR code. So there you go for my QR code lovers. So there's a bunch of different stuff on here. Help yourself. You can save this as a PDF. You can save it as an image. You can save it as an Excel spreadsheet. So this is when it comes to like grading, right? This is when it comes to, okay, I have this Padlet, but I want to give my students points for it. And I want to take it like off of the internet and I want to like be able to grade it or give my, that's where this kind of stuff is going to come into play. Where if I say, I don't have nothing on here. Let me go to one that I have. So I'm here. And I can come here and say save as a PDF. That's fine. Publish PDF. So it's going to download my Padlet as a PDF, just so you can see it. Whenever it's ready, I'm just going to talk through this because it's not awkward at all. Okay, so there we go. So I have my Padlet saved. I can see like who posted. I can see, what they posted. I can actually click on it and it brings me back to the internet. Right, it brings me back to what was posted. So you can absolutely save this as different things. Questions? I hear voices. Questions?
I think someone was unmuted there. So
Yes.
I think we're good.
We that's okay because we get excited and we unmute and I love it. All right, so there we go. So you can share on Google Classroom right here. So let's see. This looks like anything that smashes with Google Classroom. All your tech tools is the same box that comes up. So you can come here. new Google Classroom, create assignment, and then you go through the box. Just remember, this is my little thing for okay, there you go. This is my little thing to remind people, anytime you're gonna smash a Tech Tool with Google Classroom, you can't add other stuff to it. So that's the only drawback if you're gonna use those little, share the Google Classroom buttons, is you can't add anything else. So just keep that in mind. But you do have all of those different kind of ways here. You can read those, yourself. So those are all of the different ways that you can share. Yay. I am Wendy's twin. We told y'all in the beginning. All right, so let's keep going because we only went through one button. So let's keep going. There's so much to Padlet. I love it. But there's so much to it, but it doesn't feel, at least to me, like it didn't feel overwhelming because everything was in one spot. So it wasn't like, go here, then you go. Like if you forget what sharing was, you literally, like, you don't have many buttons to choose from, right? And you just hover over it and you can see, oh, that's where sharing is. So that's what I love about it, is everything is kind of confined to one place. So, like I said, even if you forget, there's only a certain amount of buttons to hover over. So then you have your remake button. So this is going to be important if you find a Padlet that you want to use. So if you're like, this is a great Padlet, I want to use it and just change, like the titles and things like that, this is where you can come to remake. So sometimes this would be grayed out. Just like you saw in your settings, you can say, I don't want my Padlet to be remade. So if you don't want your Padlet to be remade, then this is going to be grayed out for people and they won't be able to remake it. But this is how it looks when you do remake it. So it's going to be titled remake of, but you can change that right here. You can change the description right here, or you can do it later. Do you want to copy the design? Do you want to copy the post? So sometimes I just like the design. Like I like the map that they set up, but I don't want all those posts. I just like the map that they set up. So I just want the design. I want the wallpaper. I want how they organized it, but I don't want the actual content. So that's when you can say, I only want to copy the design, or you can say, I want to copy the post too, because sometimes I like the content, right? You just built this whole historical recreation of the Battle of Gettysburg. So I want the attachments too. I want the text too. So you decide what you want to copy. Or you can say, can you say no? Oh, you have to do, well, that makes sense. You have to do the design, but you can say yes or no to the post. And then admin only. So do you want to copy the people and privacy? Now notice this is only because I am the admin. If you came to my Padlet, you won't be able to do this. Okay, so that's keeping your like students posts and things like that a little bit more private. But because I'm an admin, I may want to copy this for second period. You're feeling me, right? So I have it for first, but I may want to make a copy for second period. So if I want to, I can say copy the people and the privacy and copy the authorship. So maybe I want my first period students to be an example for second period. So I'm going to say, no, I want you to copy what they did, who did it, and all that kind of stuff. I want you to copy that over. Okay. Maybe I want to show one for open house, but I want to delete some sensitive stuff that my students talked about that we want to keep within just our class. So I can say copy it all, and then I may go and delete some stuff. And then for open house, I can go look at some of our student work. I just want to show you how awesome they were. So I can copy it so they won't get the really deep one that we did together. A plethora of different reasons that you would use this, right? So you can decide what type of remake you want to do. Go back to the one I was supposed to be building. So there you go, same thing. Then you have activity. So I'm gonna go back to this one. So activity will show you who has done what on your Padlet. So you can come here and see, like I just added this an hour ago because I did a video about 5 updates that Padlet just made. And I was like, oh, I don't have that on my resource list. So I'm going to go ahead and added it to the resource list. But then under the little bell, under activity, you can also follow Padlets. This is a new feature alert. So this is a new feature. I'm going to duplicate this right quick. This is a new feature where you can follow Padlet. So when someone posts something to a Padlet, you will be notified. So if I come here to the gallery, I'm just going to go to something. So notice I can remake. You see how that bottom part is gone, the author admin only part, because I didn't create this. So I can only copy these. I can't copy ownership and all that kind of stuff. But I can also come here to activity, and this is where I can follow it. So if I click follow, now if somebody posts something to this one, I'm going to get a notification that someone has posted something to the Padlet. I'm going to unfollow this because I don't know who this person is or what they're talking about. All right. So I just wanted to show it to you on like somebody else's Padlet. Oh, one of the best new features, Padlet. One of the best new features on Padlet is slideshow mode. So I can't show it to you with nothing on the Padlet, but slideshow mode. So what slideshow mode will do is you can create a slideshow with your Padlet with the click of a button. So I can click slideshow mode. So now it created a slideshow for me. Notice it got this information from the top. Well, the top, okay? So it made your title slide. And then as I go through, the only time you're gonna get I'm gonna call it title slide too. The only time you're gonna get a title slide is if you have sections. So if you don't have a section, you won't have a title slide. So see how create your account becomes the title slide for this section. So notice it tells me, create your free account is this right here, create your free account. And then it has the picture over here. If it was like a document, I could slide it down and up. I can click on it and it'll bring me to it. So you have a very interactive slideshow just sitting here waiting on you. And I can just keep going through the slides. If it was a video, it would play the video. Like all that kind of, it's an interactive slideshow. There you go. Here's my video. Hello, everyone. And I didn't have any words. That's why you don't see any words. It's just the big video because all I did was posted the video. I didn't put any words with it. But there you go. Love it. So you have slideshow mode, and I always say, think about you using it, but always think about your students as creators, right? We got to get our students to start creating and not just taking in, not just using, not just getting what we create. We got to start having our students be creators. So think about your students creating a Padlet, and that's how they create their slideshow. Come on, right? So then you have your gear, which is the settings that you first started out with. Remember I said you could always come back to it. So that's your gear at the bottom. And then you have your 3 dots. So your 3 dots just gives you a whole bunch of different tools. Honestly, a lot of them are right here. So if you're like, I don't know what these little buttons are and I don't want to hover over them, go straight to your 3 dots. Details, bookmark, share, remake, activity, slideshow. They're the same little buttons over here, except they just kind of show it to you. Okay. This is also where you have changed formats. Remember I told you that you can change the format even after you create. So I can click change format and choose a different format. Okay. So you have change, you have clear post. So if you're like, just clear it all out, I want to start again. Archive Padlet, delete, go full screen, and help. So you have all of the same little things you already saw in different places, all in one under your 3 little dots. All right, I'm going to stop right there, see if we have any questions, see if we need any play time to finish our settings, because what we're about to go into is actually putting stuff on our Padlet. So, but I want to make sure that we have time to kind of decompress. We talked about our dashboard. We talked about a lot of different settings. So I'm going to stop right here for questions, maybe give you about 5 minutes if that's enough time, especially since you were working with me, to play with your settings. And then we're going to go ahead and hop into adding stuff to our Padlet. So first and foremost, any questions? Sandra. Yay, Debbie. The Candy Smarties wallpaper. Yeah, they have a lot of cute wallpaper. Do you have an instruction sheet handout to print? I don't do handouts with tech tools because they're tech tools and they change too much. But I do have the resource sheet that I gave you has a lot of awesome stuff on it. So everything I talked about, from creating your account, the different memberships, examples of Padlets, how you can get help, the 5 updates, templates, how you can create templates. So everything's on that resource sheet I gave you. And I'm going to post it again. Is that the right thing? Nope, that is not the right link. Let me go get the link and I'm gonna post it again in the chat. So that has all of kind of your resources, but something to print, I do not, but Padlet may on their help. I'm not 100% sure, but this is their help, like knowledge base and support. And they have pretty much everything you could possibly think of. They have it here with video tutorials and things like that. So I mean, most tech tools these days have more video tutorials than printed. So I'm sorry to say no for that. But you do have this resource page. Gotcha. And I mean, again, we all have different students. We all have different cultures. Students that, you know, the students I have experience with are way more likely to watch a video than use a resource sheet. So you may want to give them that video, like give them those resources. And they're way more likely to watch like a TikTok video or a GIF versus a 5-minute video. So I would think about giving them that. Just my humble opinion. All right, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes. So it's 10:10. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to play with your sources, with your settings and all that good stuff. And then we're going to jump deep into adding to your Padlet. And I'm here to answer questions during that 5 minutes as well. So please play around. If you get stuck, use me while you have me. I'm here. Ask, ask, ask.
And if you all have questions, come onto the mic or just pop them in the chat there. So as you've got this time that Desiree set aside, but we're excited about this. This is a fantastic session today, Desiree. So
yeah. And we haven't even gotten to all the stuff you can add. Like we have so much awesome stuff coming up.
Brandy just posted a question in the chat there.
We are going to get to that, Brandy. Yep, that's what we're about to talk about. So your question is coming up. And the only reason I don't want to answer is because I want to make sure people have time to play, but we are absolutely getting to that. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. And we're going to take 2 more minutes to play with our settings. one more minute to play with our settings. Okay, any final questions before we move on? Okay, that 5 minutes just about killed me, y'all. Let's move on. All right, so we have sections and we have the bubble. So if you're going to do sections, you can come right here and you can rename your section. So you see how it says, copy section name, rename. We're going to ignore add post because that's what we're about to do. So I'm going to rename this section. I'm going to call it, important forms. I don't know, just making stuff up. And then notice you can add a section by just clicking add section. And then I'm going to call this contact information. So if you did do a section, give a couple of your sections a title. That lowercase I is bothering me, even though this is just pretend, but I just can't. All right, so there you go. So give yourself a couple of sections to play with. I'm gonna do 3 and I'm gonna call this, I don't know, school information. I don't know, I can't. Not too creative. All right, there you go. So I have my different sections, and notice under each section, I have a plus sign. I'm going to ignore that right now and just use the big plus sign at the bottom. But you can use these individual plus signs, and it will bring up the same little screen that it will bring up if you use the plus sign at the bottom. Okay, so same difference. If you use the one right here, it's only going to be under this section. If you use the one down here, it could be under any section. So notice the section is right here. So, again, same difference. So now that you've given yourself a couple of sections, we're going to come and hit on the big plus sign. And let's see all of the different things that you and your students can add to your Padlet. Okay. Notice at the bottom, it tells me what section this is going to be under. If I want to put it in a different section, I could. Also, if you don't have sections, then you won't see that. You also can choose if you want, what background color do you want for your post? So, white, red, you can see the colors. These are the only colors you can choose from. But what I have a lot of teachers doing, I usually talk about this in templates, but what I have a lot of teachers do is they may say, if your comment is fill in the blank, choose red. If your comment is fill in the blank, choose yellow. So you may say, if your comment is a pro about what we're talking about, choose green for go. If your comment is anti what we're talking about, choose red for stop, right? So then now it's color coordinated. We can see on the screen, like, who's choosing red, who's choosing blue, that kind of, so you can color coordinate the responses that your students are giving. So that's how I have a lot of teachers using these different colors, not just because like blue is cute, but just like they're actually using it for content. And then you can do it for your own post too. Like, hey, if it's in blue, that means I really need to focus on this right now. But if it's in yellow, you focus on it later. I don't know, whatever. But there you go. So you can choose, I'm just going to choose blue just so you can see a different besides white. I have a question. Is there a setting where the Padlet will read to students? Not that I know of, Miranda. You may need to use like a reading write or something like that that will read to your students. I don't know of Padlet itself doing that. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I do not know of that. But I'm sure it works with other tech tools and we can test it too. Okay, just remind me if I forget. All right, so notice you have the different little buttons right here, and you have write something beautiful, and you have subject. So subject is going to be at the top like this right here, create your free Padlet account. That's a subject. So if you want, you don't have to put a subject, but if you want one, I'm going to say, hello, start here. So that's my subject. And then I could just write something. I don't have to use these little buttons. just to post on my Padlet. So I can say, hello, parents, and go ahead and type something on yours, something, short. Please read the following so you can know how to use this Padlet. And then I can put some information in it, right? So when I'm ready to post it, notice it's going to post under contact information. It's going to be in blue. I have my words right here. I have my subject. So I'm going to go ahead and hit publish. Yay! So I just published my first one. Notice my name is in it. It tells me what time I posted it and all that good stuff. Because I chose to have hearts here, they can come here and like it. Okay. Now, quick tip about that. If I come back to my sharing settings, nope, that is not it. No, where was that at? Settings? Yes. If I come back to my gear, come back to my settings, and I scroll down, you see how the reactions is like, right? Well, I may say, well, I don't want that anymore. I want upvote. If you change it, you can change it. See how I changed it? You can change it, but you will lose the data. So just keep that in mind. So you can't change it and the data comes with it. So I won't know who liked it, who liked it before. And it used to give me a little error message, but it's not. It used to say like, you can change it, but it's not they're not gonna be able to see. So I'm glad I'm telling you that because it used to have a little error message. So now they can rate it 5 stars, that kind of thing. But if I come and change it, let's see if it gives me the error message this time. Maybe because they know I'm the only one. Okay, there you go. See, switching reaction types deletes all existing reactions. So just keep that in mind. If you switch it, it will delete the current data that you have. Okay, so that is a quick add to Padlet. I just want to add some text, but now I'm going to add all the other things that I can add. So I'm going to come back to the pencil. So let's work with me if you're working with me. We're going to come back to the pencil and let's look at all of the awesome things that we can add. Quite honestly, I never click on all these little buttons. Let me show you why. Now, if I clicked on this one, this is upload a file. You can kind of hover over and see what it is. I just go straight to the 3 dots because the 3 dots has everything in one spot. So I don't worry about, clicking on one thing, Everything is here under the 3 dots. So this is the upload. This is the link. This is the little image search, like all the ones. These are just kind of the most popular ones. But if you just come to the 3 dots, everything is here. Okay. So let's see what we can add to Padlet. All right. And so let's look at what we can add. So notice you can add a different Padlet to this Padlet. So I can say I want to add Memorial Days around the world. Right? And I can put something like I don't have to put a subject at all, but notice I can put a subject and I can put some writing about it. It's going to be white. I'm going to put it under green just so you can see the different ones. And I'm going to publish it. So now I have a Padlet linked to a Padlet. What? Right? So you can add your Padlets. And notice these are the Padlets. This was recent, bookmarked, all Desiree's Padlets. And all the Padlets shared with me. So I can add the Padlets here. So if you're like with Desiree, there's a Padlet in the gallery that I really wanted to add. Bookmark it. Or open it, it'll be under recents. Just open it up. It's going to be under recent. And now you can add it or bookmark it and it'll be under your bookmark Padlets. Will this allow me to add something straight from my Google Drive or will I have to add it as a link? That is going to be a link, but we're going to talk about all the different things here that you can add, including a web search. But yeah, that will be a link. So if you upload, what is this little button? Let's see. Oh, okay, I'm going with that. Okay, I'm not going to look at that right now. Okay, then you can upload from your computer. So I'm going to upload the minions. Publish, and this is when you start getting into that 20 megabytes? So just keep that in mind. If it doesn't let you upload a picture, the picture is too big. You can always upload the link to the picture. What? So I can come here and upload a link. So for example, if we're talking about our Google Drive and I want to whenever you're ready, and I want to we have company. Stop it. Okay, so I want to upload this. I'm going to get the share link. Even though it's restricted, I'm gonna get the share link for it. And I'm gonna put that link here and I'm going to click enter or the little arrow, either one. Publish it. Let me make it not restricted so we can at least see it. All right, and then if anybody clicks on it, now they go to the Google Docs, for example. So I can add that. So then you have, so those are your blue, and you see how they kind of put them in like little colors. So this is like your documents. These are going to be like more of your picture videos. And then this is going to be your other type of media. So you have your camera, which my camera is being used, but you can, take a picture of something. I don't know if it's because my camera is being used by Zoom, so that probably is not going to start. But you have your camera, you have your video recorder. So same thing. You can actually create a video right here. So you don't have to go to 50 different tech tools. Let me see if I turn off my camera for you guys, if it will work. I'm going to try it again. Ooh, that looks a little janky, but there you go. So notice you can pause, resume, you can record up to 5 minutes long, you can replay the video before you save, and you have a beautiful smile. Thank you, Padlet. But there you go. So I can come here and record. I don't know why it's looking, probably because I'm using Zoom at the same time. But now I'm recording. Let's see how that looks. I would definitely discard and restart that, but and Zoom is not allowing me. But now I'm recording. Let's see how that looks. All right, so there you go. Let me stop this and start my video with Zoom again. All right, there you go. So I do not suggest having an entire 2 computers of Zoom while you're trying to record your video on Padlet. But there you go. So you do have a video recorder though for free in Padlet. So think about all of the different ways that you can have your students use this. I had a question.
I have a question after you get finished, if there's one in the chat.
Oh no, there's nothing in the chat. She had.
Okay.
We need to walk every day. Listen, I read yesterday before school.
I think somebody's
2.8
Yeah,
miles.
she's unmuted. So my question is if I want to upload a YouTube video and I went to the link down there to YouTube, like you've got right there where you've got the little hand.
Mm-hmm.
I put in like what I want to search, like I clicked on that and I clicked the heading, like for example, a Padlet video for teachers. And it automatically, like it loaded up some of them, YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
And I was afraid it might be too big. So it automatically, when I clicked on it, it loaded it to the sections that you have in your columns.
Uh-huh.
How am I going to know if it's too big or not? Because then I went out and I went to the YouTube website, which was so nice because it was already linked. I didn't have to go out and go to YouTube, but I did it just in case because I wanted to highlight just the URL and put it in, like you were saying, just copy and paste the URL. But
Right.
It did the same thing that on the Padlet site that you just showed me. So I'm just wondering, am I doing something wrong, or does
It
that
sounds like it worked for you, right?
Yes, it did show up both ways.
Yeah.
But I was just curious, if it's too big, how do you know it'll be too big?
It won't show up. It won't go through.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you'll try to hit enter and you'll just be like, what? So it'll just sit there and look at you like what you're trying to do. Yeah, it just won't go through. Yeah. And just a little tip, because you can do YouTube from here, but just a little tip about YouTube, and y'all may know this, but you know, it's a nice little tangent, but still on topic. So when you go to YouTube to get a video, let's say I want to get this video, don't get the URL. That is not the correct link for sharing. So sometimes that link is going to work and sometimes it's not. And you'll be wondering like, why isn't the share link working? So anytime you go to a YouTube video, you want to go right underneath it and get the actual share link. So this is the link. You can see those links are very different. So this is the link that you would want to go and use on other tech tools and stuff like that. So you may have already known that for everybody who's here, but just a little quick YouTube tech tip. Let's
Desiree,
see.
I have a question too, as far as your the one where that it says video recorder.
Uh-huh.
So I recently got Chromebooks in my room and was thinking about doing some tutorial videos on how to like properly wash out brushes and whatnot. Is that something that I could do it through the video recorder, or would that take up like the data, the 20 megabytes or whatever it is, to do it through there? Or would it be better to do like a YouTube video with my own channel and then do the link? Do you know?
I mean, it depends on what you're going to be using it for. So if you only want it for this Padlet, then just do it right here in the Padlet. If you think you're going to want to use that video in like for other reasons and in like other tech tools and in the future, then I would suggest doing a YouTube channel and just making it unlisted so people can't search for it. But if I give the link to someone, they can use it. And then you can always put that on your Padlet. So I would say it would just depend on what you actually want to use it for, if that makes sense.
Okay, so if I just want to use it for Padlet,
Yeah, I was just recording
with
right
the
here. It says you can
video,
record up to
is there
5
a certain is there a certain amount of time, like, and it'll cut you off?
It said 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yep. So as soon as I started the video recorder, it had all that in the corner. It said you can record up to 5 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely would test it when you come to like the 20 megabytes. I don't think they would give you 5 minutes if you couldn't do 5 minutes. But you know that all of our computers are different and things like that about how the files are like compressed and things like that. So I would definitely, you know, test it out. You know. We do have a question in the chat as well. Is each post only one picture item? To make a picture album or share a video, does each picture video need to be in a separate post? No. So if I come here and let's say, oh, not camera. If I come here and I say, and I just want to test it because I don't like to answer people and then lie to them in their face. So if I come here, I can add, so pictures and videos, yeah, I think it's only one, but you can add text and like a subject. So if I wanted to put like a link here, I could, but yeah, so it's looking like it's not letting me add more than one video or more than one picture per post. Very good question. I was like, I don't know. But yeah, very good question. So any other questions before we kind of continue with these? Bring them on, y'all. That's all we're here. We're here to learn from each other. And if anybody has like, oh, I have used Padlet in this way, please do not keep your genius to yourself. Speak up. We learn from each other. Any comments at this time or questions? Okay. So you have an audio recorder, so that's just going to record your voice. So notice your recordings could be up to 15 minutes long. Please don't do that. Please don't have a 15-minute audio record. Just from your students to you, please don't do that. But you can have it up to 15 minutes long. Okay, you can replay the audio before you save it, and you have a beautiful voice. I just want to come to Padlet to feel better about myself. And you can pause and resume. So notice it'll ask you like what microphone you want to use. So just be careful with that. Make sure you're using the microphone you actually want to use. Like mine was using the microphone on my camera versus my professional mic right here. So be careful. Make sure you're using the mic you actually want to use. And now I am recording my voice. Awesome. And then I can listen to it. And now I am recording and then I'm going to save it. And now I can put a subject and a text. I'm going to make this one yellow, and there you go. You can also do a screen recorder. So this is when it's going to be a screencast. So, you know, we have some art people here. We have some math people here. So if you need to record your screen to show them that art piece and go, this is how I want you to look at the art piece, or show them that math problem and go, this is how I want you to do the math problem. So that's going to be your screen recorder where it records the actual screen. So notice when I click screen recorder, it says that I need to install a Chrome extension that I'm going to go ahead and do. Why not? So you can go ahead and do that Padlet mini Chrome extension. And I'm going to refresh my screen so I can now record my screen. So there you go. Or it can just completely fail. All right. And it brought this one down too. What the heck? All right, let me see if it'll work this time. If not, we will move on from the screen recorder. Yeah, we're gonna move on. And it may be because I just downloaded it. And sometimes when you download an extension and you already have that platform up, you need to take Chrome off and bring it back for everything to work well. I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but it does happen a lot. So screen recorder, you have draw and I can't draw. Let me show you I can't draw. It's brand new. All right, so you have draw. For those people that like to brag, like, look, I can draw a house. Yay, look at me. So you can go ahead and draw. You can put a black background or a white background, and then you can save your drawing and you can publish it, and no one will laugh at you because I'm sure you draw better than I do. But I now have I can't draw. So haha to you. And I can use I can't draw. So I can't draw is brand new, and it is your AI creator in Padlet. So if you say, I want a purple unicorn, I'm going to click enter and it's going to create a purple unicorn for me. I want a blue house on fire. I don't know how what this is going to come up with, but let's see what blue house is on fire it will come up with. So this is your AI creator. So if you're like, I'm looking for something. Oh, poor baby. So this is my blue house on fire. So it doesn't have to already exist. You can make it up and you can see what comes up. So of course, looks like a sun. The sun is behind my house. But these look pretty good. So you can say what you want to create. It will create it for you. It's not all going to be brilliant, as you can see, but there you go, right? And your kiddos can also use this. So think about this though, right? So we always want to think about how can we use this for content, right? So think about, I'm gonna do an ELA example. That's what's in my mind right now for this. So if you say, hey, we just talked about mood and tone, right? So I want you to put a picture here that represents the mood of the short story. So they may not be able to, find the picture. They may not be able to draw like me. So now they can use AI to say, like, what is the mood? Like, how are you feel? Even just how are you feeling right now, right? They can come up, you can tell them they can use I can't draw and come up with something. And they may feel like a blue house is on fire. And then you need to go talk to that student. So there you go. So you have I can't draw. I'm gonna stop right here and see what questions we have in the chat. Super cool. Yeah, I cannot. I draw like the blue house on fire. That's my drawing. So awesome. So yeah, that's brand new. We love I can't draw. Anything that's AI, we're all in love with right now. So then we have image search. So you can just do a search right here for your images. So I'm gonna search for a cat, for example, and now I'm getting a cat. Notice it has the source with it. So I can click source and see where's this coming from, right? So if I'm like, yeah, I love it, this is the cat I want. So now I have the cat in there. I don't know what I haven't used yet. Red, maybe. All right. So now it's a red background with the cat, and there you go. Now, when they click on the cat, the picture of the cat comes up bigger, and all of the images and videos will also come up in this way. Okay. So when they click on the image, they can kind of go through all the images and attachments that I have in this Padlet. I think I heard somebody on the mic. Questions? You have GIFs or GIFs. I'm not going to fight you on that, but GIFs or GIFs. So I can come here and say, a happy GIF. So I use him a lot. I like him. So there you go. So I can put that here. And now I don't know where I'm adding stuff to now. So there you go. So I have it in my happy GIF here. I want you to notice something, that when I'm clicking on these things, they're all up here. You don't have to go out if you clicked on images, but you really want a YouTube video. They're all here, right? You just click on it and it's the same as going out and clicking on the buttons. We already looked at YouTube, Spotify. So of course you would have a Spotify account, which I do not. So I'm just going to put Kiss, since we were talking about Kiss earlier. I don't know what's going to come up. Please forgive me if I say anything inappropriate. So let's see. So I don't know what this, I guess it's going to lead to Kiss on Spotify. I have no clue. Let's find out together. So if I come here and I click on it, that's pretty awesome. And I do not have a Spotify account. So it's just a preview of it. It's not going to play the whole song, but still pretty awesome. So now your students can make playlists, right? Make a playlist of this historical event. Make a playlist of this artist's life. Like, I want a song to represent each of the major events in his life or in her life. So there you go. Web search is literally just a web search. So I can search for, spelling, and it's going to do websites for that. So I can say, yep, that's the website I want. And then, that's because I got to publish it first. And then if you click on it, you can go to that website. And then we have location. So this is where you can do almost like your map. So if I say I want Kentucky, USA. I was like, I guess that's Kentucky. So we'll do some roads. We have terrains, hybrid of both. I can also put a pin, so I can go, I want Nashville. That's not in Kentucky though. Oh no, what? Wait, can I, wait. Oh, because I just put Kentucky. So it's just putting, okay. So if I had an address here, it would show the pin to that direct address. So, okay. I was like, why isn't the pin moving? That's because this is your pin. So you would have to put the address up here, and then the pin will go exactly where you want it to be. But then I can click save, and I can publish that map. So now I have a nice little map here where if you click on it, it becomes like a picture, like everything else, that all the other attachments that you put on here. So that's really it for posting stuff to your Padlet. Do we have any questions? Because what we're going to do next is we're going to go through some examples of Padlets and start getting a little bit of ideas, even though we've been doing that for the whole 2 hours, but we want to get some more concrete ideas of how we can use this. Okay. But before we go there, let's see if we have any questions. What are some, Jessica, it's like I paid you. What are some examples of ways you can use Padlet in your ELA classroom, like specific projects or assignments? So Jessica, I'm not going to just focus on ELA. I always, because we have a mixed audience, I don't like to concentrate on one subject, but let's talk about some examples. But let me see if we have any other questions first. Questions? Okay, so let's go through some examples. And like I said earlier, I have 2 classes on Padlet. So this is Padlet 101, where it kind of shows you this. And then my second one is templates in Padlets. And that's when we talk about really specific ways to create templates for different content areas. And that's a whole hour class by itself. So we only have about 15 minutes left. So we're just going to look at some quick examples for ideas. So if we go to my resource page that I put in your chat, and let's see if I still have it. Nope, that's a YouTube. Give me 1 second. I will paste it again for those that don't have it. I am copying it now, and now I am posting it. All right, so that is the resource Padlet that I created, and we have some Padlet examples right here. So let's look at some of them. All right, so these are some different Padlets. She did put her, you know what I'm trying to say, sections, and this is one of the Padlets that has, it's part of the new like, Padlets that you can do if you go ahead and do the, my mind is going completely blank now. No, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, it is beta features. So if you do the beta features, you know you can do all the Padlets with sections. So that's what this is. I'm excited to see it because she changed this up and I like it. So we have some resources for using Padlets. We have some creations. So we're going to look at some of these. And then we have communication using Padlet and collaboration using Padlet. So let's look at some of them. So first grade Padlet. So even using Padlet for your lower level students, you can still do it. Now, of course, it will be used like with the parent, right? But we have our calendars here. We have different videos and sheets to help them with math, reading, writing, and different things. So just all kinds of different, you know, they have the different teachers here, something, you know, something about each teacher to tell you about themselves, different like books being read and things like that. So this is really a parent portal, right? We're not calling it a parent portal, but it's a parent portal. So there you go, as an example of using it with lower level. Classroom Padlets. So this is just an overall, like almost like a website for Padlet. So that's when you kind of start getting into like Wakelet territory, in my opinion. But, you know, we have our welcome, we have announcements. So of course, if you're going to do announcements on your Padlet, you want to make it to where the new ones are at the top. We love history, the syllabus, links to the textbooks. Scroll down to see all files. If a file is funky to see on your phone, you may get on a, I'm guessing, computer. But there you go. So all kinds of Google Classroom directions, all kinds of things on here. And this is just kind of an overall for your classroom. Reading list. Oh, I love this background for what it's for. It's so cute. So now we have our reading list here. So just different books, and you can tell that this is a grid. So you see how there's like white space because they're all going to start at the same, you got the same thing, the same level. So there you go. And if I wanted to see what this book is all about, it looks like it's just a picture of the book. Oh, sorry. Looks like it's just a picture of the book. It's not like a link that you can go to read about the book. So just a picture of the book. There you go. Dinosaur timeline. So now we can see a timeline, and this person actually is using the beta because they have a timeline with sections. Why can't I remember the word sections anymore? So, but this is a timeline. So, you know, you see that it's a more interactive timeline, right? Where you can put pictures and videos and all the things I just showed you, you can put in a Padlet, you can put in your timeline. So there you go. So again, just quick examples. I'm going to move on to collaboration. So post assessment. So we have our directions. Watch this video for your directions. It kind of tells you what to do and what not to do. So today you will be reading the story called The Yard Sale in 3 different parts. Read each part, then answer the question that asks about the part. Do not go ahead and read the whole story all at once. I dare you. No, I get it. I get it. Read page 1 and answer question 1 under your name. So you see how we have, I think she just did like an example, I'm guessing, because it's only Grace. Then read question 2. So read page 1 for question 1. So this is question 1. And they can click it. I guess this is a picture of the page itself. And then they can either post and answer, or they can add comments and answer. I didn't read all the directions. I was a bad student. But however she wants them to do that. And then answer these 4 questions under your name. So what you can do for this kind of thing is, you see how it has student name. I've had teachers, and this is one of the things I show you when we talk about templates, is creating a like work page for your student. So what a lot of my teachers would do is either put this kind of thing where it's just it's like student name 30 times, and the students can click it, put their name there, and then post under their name. Or the teacher can actually put all of their names on it. And then remember, you can always archive, you can always recreate, right? So if you want to put all the students' names on it, definitely depending on the age of your student, you can make that template, archive it, and when you want to use that workbook page, recreate it, because you don't want to use your original. So you can always recreate it, all the students' names are there, and then they can post their answers under their names. So just little things like that. So she just put student name here. So they would actually, so she gave them editing rights. So they would recreate the student name. I almost hit myself in the face. They would recreate the student name, type their name, and continue. So I would think this would be, you know, more of an upper level class versus like elementary. But there you go. And notice she used the color feature. So pink was for question 1. Yellow was for question 2. You know, you get the point. So she used that color coordination in hers. So, and again, all of these are under the resources. And I'm not even, there's another one that has a whole bunch of resources. So for examples, even though it's Padlet 101, you have a lot of examples to go look at. Science experiment. So we have our science experiment. This is my worst subject, so I don't know if I'm going to understand anything that's here, but there you go. So it looks like these are student names, because I was like, I don't know what this means, but they're student names. So these are the student names, and they have their research question, materials, methods, pictures. So awesome. I really love this, because not only are they turning everything in, but they can see each other's. Like, they can't edit each other's and things like that, but they can see each other, learn from each other, see what everybody's doing, and go, oh yeah, okay, I need to step up my game, because look at how awesome this person's is, or they may get an idea, or, you know, anything like that. But the teacher probably did these names for them, and then they went to their name, and I'm guessing she told them what to post, and there you go. Animal research project. And I'm gonna do a couple of more of these, and then I'll stop for our final questions. So animal research. What, I'm guessing this is, are these some AI animals with the mouth? Oh, they probably use that thing where they make the animal talk. That's why the mouth looks like that. I was like, what in the world? So there you go. But so these are videos.
Husky shit.
Yeah, chatter pits.
Huskies making all the watch stuff.
Cuteness overload. Climate change discussion. So they're having a discussion on theirs. So you see, it says, so what they did was, this was probably an anonymous, so they didn't have to be signed into Padlet. But what the teacher did was made them put their name as the subject. So, because you see how it doesn't say who, you know, right underneath it, it doesn't say Desiree Alexander posted it. So this was probably an anonymous one that was public, that they didn't have to be signed into Padlet. But in order for you to get credit, you better put your name, because that's how I know that you know, post it. So there you go. And she put the grades right on here. So go you, teacher. So there you go. So a whole discussion about climate change. We're not trying to hide what we're saying. We're not trying to hide what's going on. It's all here on the Padlet. Love it. Art walk. I agree. So art walk. So I think this is the students' art. So anytime you do like a walk in the classroom, because I've seen like literature walk, art walk, math walk, is usually that the students are putting their work like around, and then the students are going around and like putting post-its as comments. But you can do that electronically, right? So they can take a picture of their work, put it on here, and the students can put comments instead of putting post-its as comments. They can put comments right here in the Padlet. So there you go. They're taking pictures. They're putting their pictures of their art here. It doesn't look like they did comments on this one. And it looks like instead of putting their name in the subject, they just put their name in the post. Same difference, right? So there you go. Loving this. Loving. I get so excited. That's why I love the examples. But loving this. So there you go for that. About one more example. Let's see. Did we do math, geometry, Padlet? But you can you can get to all of these. So they were finding these things in the real world. So finding parallel lines in the real world. I don't want to download the picture, but I can see it right there. Center. Oh, I don't know why it's making me down. Maybe it's one of their security settings or something. I don't know. But you can see like a circle, triangle. There you go. So I'll kind of finding geometry in the real world Padlet. So you can see more resources, 20 ways, 30 ways, 5. So it's a whole bunch of resources here, y'all, that you can go. 15 cool ways to use Padlet. So this is from We Are Teachers. So they just kind of talk about different ways, remaking it and all that good stuff. Some of the stuff I already told you, but getting to know each other. So there's never going to be, I can't get an idea for using a Padlet. Like it's there. If you want it, it's there. Now, if you just want to sit there and be like, I don't know how to use, then just that's you in your personal life. Okay, because it's out there. There's examples. There's ones you can remake. That, like, if you want to use it, it's there. So, and this just gives you a couple. And then the tutorials and all that kind of stuff. My 5-minute tip of the 5 new things, which I did show you all of them. And then this is an example. Well, this just kind of goes to the gallery, I think. Yeah. So it's a lot of different ones here. Again, in your gallery that you can also use. And you see like the best of education. So if you go to the best of education, there's going to be multiple Padlets here again that you can use. And that's what I mean by it's there. If you want the examples, it's there, it's there, it's there. So classroom management, writing task ideas, functional skills, English resources, like it's here, y'all. Bringing art into the classroom is here. And this was the best of education. And I just went to the gallery, best of education in the gallery. But they're there. So all of the examples are there. You now know how to actually use the Padlet, how to create it, how to make sure that it's shared correctly, all that good stuff. And then you connect that with making templates, with making your own, with remaking other people's, and you will, you're going to be unstoppable when you're using Padlet. So, any last questions as we kind of round out our time together? Let's see. We have, if I share my Padlet using a QR code, will it reflect updates I make to the Padlet or just the Padlet that was made at the time? No, it's just like with a link, it's going to, if you update it, it's going to show. So QR code is just a link. It's just a visual of a link. So just like if you share the link or the QR code, as you update it, it's going to update. The only way it's not is if they remake it. So if they remake it, then they only remade it at the time of when they remade it. I don't know if I just made sense or not. Okay. I just want to know how you got that fun smiley face mouse. Jamie, focus on what I'm talking about and not on my screen. Of course, I'll tell you how I got that. So many people, every time I do a training out, they're like, how did you get the big happy face? It's an extension called Creative Cursor. Nope, Custom Cursor. just making my own stuff up. Custom cursor. So with custom cursor, it's a I'm using Google Chrome, so it is a Chrome extension. I don't know if it's on Microsoft. I know it's definitely on Chrome. And you can just choose what you want your cursor to look like. So if I want it like Garfield and lasagna, I'll just click on them and now I'm Garfield and lasagna. You can choose how big you want it to be. So if I come and make it big,
I do some of the stuff I'm doing, but I still have to
I'm just
try
gonna
to
keep
figure out
talking.
what
So
I do.
big Garfield and lasagna. You can upload
Huh?
I do a little here and a little there.
you can upload your own.
Somebody's not muted there, Desiree. Hang on a second. We've
Okay,
got,
I
we've
was
got
like-
55
See, I
people
don't
on.
have
See, I'm ready
I
to
knew.
run right now.
Yeah, hang on a
I'm-
second.
do something.
I'm good right now if you need to do something.
I'm just trying to.
There we go. Got it.
Okay.
All right.
And
Sorry
then
about
you can-
that.
No, you're fine. Hey, we're on technology. We're not used to that by now, something wrong. All right. So so you can choose the bigness. You can also turn it on and off. And then you can go to more cursors, and there are more cursors than you can possibly imagine. I had a teacher use this for engagement. So what they did was they changed their cursor every Monday, and the students had to figure out how did the cursor match the lesson. And I thought that was really awesome. Any other questions?
Desiree, thank you so much. Just an incredible session today. And again, with this group of incredible educators, just want to remind everybody, you know, when with all the tools that, you know, will help you in your classroom. So I know you have Wakelet, you have Padlet, you are Google certified, there's multiple things, but she works very hard to find the very best. Today absolutely was that. So just use these tools as they will help support instruction in your classroom. I can also see personal as well as professional uses here. So again, Desiree, just a wonderful session. Jamie has posted the evaluation I see there. Any questions at all? You can come onto the mic and then let us know. Yep, Deb, it has been a fast 2 hours, that's for sure.
Dr.
Wonderful 2 hours,
Alexander,
but it has gone really, really fast.
I did have a question. When you were going back, I know you've made this where the student's name was and the whoever the author was, you know, the person that created it, could put the student name in there. The responses, does that go back to the settings where you have to allow the kids, or do the kids have to have their Padlet account and that password to be able to do that same
Yep.
thing like that teacher had in her Padlet?
If they're just typing it in the title or typing it in the post, no, they don't. That can be just like an anonymous person like posting to your Padlet.
Okay.
Now if it says like right underneath, they'll say Desiree 2 minutes ago, that means I was logged into the account. So you can decide if people have to be logged into the account or not.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Anybody have any other questions at all? If you have questions about KEDC or KEDC grants, we'll stay on after. It's a beautiful Saturday. I know I've got a weed eater and a mower waiting on me, but we'll stay on as long as you need us to stay. Make sure you fill that evaluation out. Have a wonderful weekend. And as always, if there's anything any of you all may need, please let us know and we'll be right there to help in any way that we can. So love you all and appreciate what you do each and every day, but enjoy the weekend and your time. So thank you so much. Desiree, thank you so much. Just fantastic, wonderful session. You're going to see lots of these things coming on Twitter. So lock
Okay.
Twitter up today. If you can't do it right now, do it later tonight and next week in your classroom. Share out and let us know.
I would love to know. I'm at Educator Alex on Twitter. So I would love
Yeah, I
to.
followed you just a little bit ago. So there we go.
Perfect. I would love to see all of your stuff. But no, thank you guys so much. I'll head out so you can talk about your organization. And thank you guys so much.
See you soon, Desiree.